Something huge is coming. We're building the world's largest truther convention. It's called TrutherCon.
This is the place where truthers unite to explore knowledge, ask tough questions, to challenge the mainstream narrative.
But it isn't just a convention. It's a movement for free thought, open discussion, and the right to question everything.
We are bringing in some of the biggest names of the truther community, so expect deep discussions, mind-blowing revelations, and connections with like-minded truth seekers.
If you feel like the truth is being hidden from you, this is where you need to be.
And the best part, it's 100% grassroots, built by truthers for truthers, straight from our Skiba News Nation family. TrutherCon will be a massive networking event. I believe this is going to be the most exciting truther event ever.
October 2025 in Dallas, Texas. We hope to see you there.
Welcome to Seven Trumpets Prepper Channel. And guys, welcome to a very special edition of the Hard Truth Show. Today's not so much as a normal stream that we go in on a specific topic, as that we are going to give a shout out to the TrutherCon, that conference that's going to be taking place. And I've got Jeremiah and Jake that's going to be joining me today that have put the grassroots effort to make this thing happen. I think it's going to be epic. And I'm going to turn the floor over to them today, and they are going to explain to you what to expect, what's coming, topics, speakers, the whole nine yards. I think it's going to just be awesome. So without further ado on that, guys, right now, get everybody in the building. Hey, everybody. Get everybody's mics good to go. There you go.
Hey, guys. Hey, yeah. I mean, we're so happy that you're going to be there, too. I mean, that's just epic, you know?
Oh, it's an honor. I appreciate the invite, guys.
Yeah, I just remember the first time we ever spoke and we were on each other's shows. I just it kept popping in my mind. Us truth seekers got to stick together, and I thought that was very important. And we had the idea for it from Jake's birthday. And Jake, you want to talk about like kind of how that came to be?
Oh yeah, we were getting together down in Florida for a little soiree. I was turning 30. And we kind of hit the pedal to the metal in terms of plotting out this big event. You see, there's a lot of conspiracy conferences and different events that have happened over the years, but really in recent memory, they've started to fizzle out. There's not been one real big one. I remember working on my Flat Earth documentary, What If the Earth is Flat? And during that process, I went to every single one of the Flat Earth International conferences, the FEICs. And then when I was working for Now You See TV, we would film the Take on the World conferences, and we do this or that in terms of trying to, go and attend events. But I was like, man, Jeremiah, the time is ripe, buddy. We got to get something going. And we started planning it out and talking about it. We had some amazing people come alongside to help us. And now it's actually a possibility. Well, not a possibility, a reality, that we're going to be putting on, hopefully, what will eventually be the biggest truther convention in the world. That we're not going to perish for lack of vision on this one, Luke, because that's what I'll say.
Hey, I think kids are swinging for the fence on this, man. You'll probably get you a good home run out of this one.
I hope so.
So why Dallas?
So Dallas, it's not only where I live. That's not the only reason why we picked it. But so JFK, that was the first time during that assassination, the Warren Commission report said these people are crazy. They're conspiracy theorists. So that was the first time that was ever used in the mainstream. And now it's coming out that, those conspiracy theorists weren't so much conspiracy theorists, but truthers. So we thought TrutherCon, that's a better word than conspiracy theorists. So I just thought it was so fitting that, we were doing it in Dallas,
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, that's wild. I had never really gave much thought to that. Where that the term conspiracy theory is kind of like, you know, got a foundation and solidified from. That is very interesting. And yeah, and all the declassified CIA documents. I'll tell you the one that's really been interesting to me lately is that they were trying to use people that I guess can, see things from a distance. I don't even know the word um that to exactly define it, guys. It was in the documents, and I can't remember the very deep intellectual term that they put in there for it. But anyway, they could use these people to apparently see objects and places afar off. It was a project for the CIA, and apparently that they had seen the Ark of the Covenant far off, and they said that there was messengers, there was angels protecting it, and no one could go near it. And then it was hidden away, and all these things. And I'm like, I'm not saying it's true, but I'm like, when the CIA dabbles in stuff, I'm always intrigued. Like, if there was one institution on this earth that always makes my ears perk up, I'm like, tell me what yins are into this week, gentlemen. So there's that I seen the other day on the declassified stuff. But who knows, guys? I mean, I swear we are probably being drip fed what's really been stashed away.
Yeah, for sure.
So the dates. I know people's asked me a lot about when exact the dates are, and
So-
it's got that hammered out.
Yeah, it's going to be October 25th and 26th. That's an exclusive here. We haven't really made that announcement yet, but that's what we kind of got it down to. We know where, but we're still, talking with the people at the venue and the place and all that. So just the fine details, but yeah, I thought,
Nice.
what a cool thing for podcasters and researchers to network and collaborate, but then also for our audiences to connect and just kind of, synchronize and synergize and all that stuff.
I love it. I'm truly looking forward to it. Like, I just got me I just traded my little electric BMW. Yeah, that little tiny electric car I had. I used it to get back and forth to the job site every day to do electrical work. I traded it in the other day for a 2020 Jeep Gladiator that the guy was like a former Marine, and he had it lifted up, and you've seen the picture of it on Facebook, didn't
Oh,
you,
yeah.
Jeremy? Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I commented on it.
okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we'd have drive around Texas. I'll have to drive that down there because I feel I finally got me a vehicle to get me across the US now for once instead of my little electric car. I feel shameful I drove that thing. Like, that's just not a prepper mobile. But
you got a good one.
here was what the word was I was trying to say earlier: remote viewing. Thank you to the comment there, guys. I appreciate you for sharing that. That was the word I was trying to say on the CIA thing earlier. Okay, so who all is going? I mean, does everyone need to be looking out for that's going to be coming to speak?
As of right now, I think Jake has a name.
Yeah, we for sure have guys like Gary Wayne and you. Zen Garcia is going to be there. Josh O'Keefe, R.L. Smith from Lifting the Veil. Just a couple for sure confirmed guys, but we have some names in the works that aren't released yet that you guys should be really excited about. We can't give too much, information out right away, until they're fully on board. But we've been talking with some really sweet speakers. What we're trying to do is to fill the roster with researchers and authors and people that can speak on a variety of topics of truth, because it's not just a flat earth conspiracy conference. It's not just a JFK conspiracy conference. It's a whole broad spectrum of a lot of areas of expertise that we're trying to bring together. And some of the names that we're going to be releasing in the coming months are going to be very exciting. So just stay on the lookout over at TrutherCon.com. We have a little special guest tab on the website. And if you haven't checked out the website, that's the best place to start as we start releasing information. And so those are just some of the names of confirmed speakers. And already on that, the list of guys we're covering prepperism, right? We're covering interesting ancient biblical theories and, controversial topics. We have, the Founded Earth brothers covering the scientism of the modern age and debunking what we've been taught in terms of space and this or that. So we're covering a lot of bases already. Gary Wayne, one of the foremost experts in secret societies and Freemasonry and occult, with his Genesis 6 conspiracy book. So just some of these, names that we have confirmed are already covering a broad spectrum of different areas. And it's going to be super interesting to see everybody interacting and different speakers getting to, ask different questions, and engaging each other's audiences and stuff. It's going to be really cool.
Very nice.
We did have one idea that we want to run past you. So me and Jake, we met Eddie when we met Eddie Bravo. There was supposed to be something like Shark Tank, where everybody gets to go up and tell them your favorite conspiracy, and we want to have a panel of all the special guests where people can. Sorry about that. I don't know why that just started.
My phone done the same thing. It started playing in the background a minute ago. I was like, I keep hearing the voice, but it was where I had it up to remind on the stream.
Yeah, me too. So where people can submit their favorite conspiracy theory or whatever they want to say, and we're like Shark Tank, I feel like it didn't really happen as well as we would have liked at the Eddie Bravo show, but I feel like that would be pretty cool.
I think that would be epic. Okay, I would just go ahead for the court of public opinion. I'll submit mine right now. Y'all know about like Tartaria, right? The mud flood thing, and have heard all that, right? Have you seen so huge Indiana Jones fan, right? So I just can't let biblical archaeology go. And one of the things that's just really intrigued me lately is like on the Great China Wall. When people go as a guest and visit that, you'll see the ramparts on both sides, right? And the arrow shoot access points. But as you go into the broken areas of the Great Wall of China, the armament is facing toward China, not outwards toward the Mongolia and the Huns and all that. And they say that it's not the actual Great Wall of China, but archaeologists, like private archaeologists, are saying on their adventures there now that it is the Great Wall of Tartaria. And they're sharing where all these, like a lot of ancient architecture is actually electrical transmitting stations. And I've seen all these things, that's been shared, and mud flood, and, people's even submitted to that they feel that, we're in Satan's little season, post-millennial reign, we're in that short little space, and that the Byzantine Empire and all that was former millennial kingdom reign, and, all these things. And it's like, man, it has really intrigued me lately, because I'm like, whether you're, pre-trumpets or you're post-millennial, a man still needs to be prepared, because we are living in insanely perilous times. I mean, somebody has to be completely blind not to see that. But like it is very intriguing to me, all this architecture, and the world's fairs, and all these doors that are obviously made for Nephilim to walk through and not a normal man, and just it's very intriguing to me. And then of course the world's fairs was destroyed, and there's a temple to the Greek deity Athena here in Nashville, Tennessee, that I didn't even know existed. I mean, the thing looks like you took a construction equipment, craned it over, and set it over here from Greece. I'm just like,
is
wow.
it the Parthenon, right?
Yeah.
I've seen videos on that. It's super weird.
Yeah, I got to drive out one weekend and look at this, because but that was part of they said the original structure was destroyed, and then a permanent structure was built, but and that they were made out of clay and plaster and all this, and yet there's solid like granite buildings standing. It's just intriguing, man. So that would be my one I would put out there, that it's like, I'm curious on people's thought process back, because I'm in full Indiana Jones mode trying to figure this out right now.
Oh man, yeah, that's a really good one, and I'll leave the full question to be answered possibly by some experts at the conference. But if you are going down the rabbit hole of Tartaria, the book that was suggested to me by a good friend, and I read through some of the passages, is Purchas and His Pilgrimes.
Purchas. What was it, Jake? I'm sorry, I'm writing it down.
Purchas and His Pilgrimes. It's spelled real weird like that, like pilgrimes. It's Old English, and I believe it's like a 14th century, 15th century compilation of the travels of this man named Purchas. And in his kind of analog of travels, He covers a variety of very interesting topics. And if I'm not mistaken, he tells the story of Genghis Khan being called by the Almighty to unite the tribes of the Mongolian Empire, right? And it's a history account of how he was this old man blacksmith who in his old age all of a sudden was met by this angelic force that compelled him to become the leader of all of these 12 tribes of the Mongol Empire, so to speak. And I had never heard this story growing up, but apparently they were like a pseudo-Christian nation as well. In the way that the language is, it's very interesting in that Genghis Khan was intended to be this like weapon of the Lord, so to speak, to be used to judge the nations. And in Purchas and His Pilgrimes, it also details this account of an ancient city or state of darkness that was perpetually in dark. And some other stories of like this king that was force-fed gold because of his, wicked heart, and some other really bizarre and interesting, nuanced little conspiracy stories. So it ties into that time of the Great Wall of China that you were talking about, how that could have been from the Tartarian Empire versus the ancient Chinese Empire. And the one thing it brings to mind is, history is written by the victor, right?
Absolutely.
And so with all of these topics of truth that we're going to be covering at the conference, there's going to be two principles presented, right? What is the modern accepted truth of a topic, right? And what is the objective truth? And sometimes people confuse accepted truth, which is groupthink, with objective truth, which is when you really do your research and you do your homework and you have all the information available, such as old ancient books like Purchas and His Pilgrimes, you can weigh and kind of see it in the balance of what everybody has been taught versus what we can find in terms of the historical record. And then, it gets really interesting and exciting because you realize that there's been a finger on this side of the scale of what accepted truth is. And they've been obscuring what objective truth is, which is just balancing and weighing all of the information we get and figuring out what the most logical kind of practical explanation of truth is. And so, man, when it comes to all the different topics of truth we're going to be covering, it really takes well-read and well-researched individuals to present a case for something that's outside of the norm, accepted truth. And so it's so exciting to get so many like-minded, truth-seeking researchers all together in one space, because we're all going to be able to sit down and start to pick and pluck from each other's research. And that's what gets so exciting about real-time live events like TrutherCon, is because, man, when you have a coming together of the minds, we start to spur each other on, like our thought patterns and stuff. Like, we're going to be tapping into conspiracy theories and alternative realities that we could have never expected or even come up with on our own. And it's just because of the fact that we're going to be together with other people who have a love for the truth. And I think that's what's so special about it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the Most High seeks those that want to worship Him in spirit and truth, and it's like we're living in a generation that's, out of all history that I've looked at, the most crazy thing about now is like even reaching back, like when Hitler was burning books, that's kind of stuff going on, is that we're living in an age where that free thought is being suppressed. Like even on the platform we're on, Ian's got a war trophy hanging on the wall behind Jeremiah there. I got a war trophy sitting in the bookshelf that we survived, the onslaught of terms and guideline strikes and everything else on this platform. Like there is a war on anyone thinking and having open conversation and dialogue. Like the First Amendment, just like it's out the window on a political level, and then on like even just a private conversation in the world is being suppressed by corporations and religious systems and school systems. It's institutions. It's crazy. And on top of that, is you see the slow and quiet destruction of written literature. Like people are pulling out old books that are from like, way back when, that don't, like Jake said, the victor decides what gets wrote in history. Well, there's books from way back when that tell a complete different narrative. I mean, like not even like a small, like I tell you a story and then you tell Jeremiah a story and then he tells it and he gets a little watered down. It ain't even like that. It's like complete, like, it's like Robert Frost said, walking in the wood one day, two paths diverged. I took the one less traveled. Like the one less traveled is almost in oblivion now, to find the truth. And an example that Marco Polo, they said that they showed in this book, and he had apparently walked the Silk Road and all that. He never spoke of the Great Wall of China. And like he even had a Tartar symbol on him, like in the writings that they wrote about him and everything, like crazy wild stuff. And it's just like, how much of this has been watered down? Like it's so watered down at this point to even try to filter it is so difficult. And, somebody brought up the point too about, the Chinese calendar. I think it was the Chinese dragon. That's the only animal on that calendar that's not so-called real. But in ancient times, there's so much writings about dragons in ancient times. Not only that, it looks like a brachiosaurus that people's riding on, which they call dinosaur, which I would refer to as behemoth. Like it's wild. I mean, there's just so many questions that's lingering out there. And I know a lot of these things people might say, well, these are not salvational issues, but nevertheless, it's intriguing to figure out the world that we're living in because, Daniel 7:25 talks about he'd seek to change times and laws. And it's like, what if you can get people to think they're in a different timeline? What if you can get people to think that these things that scripture says don't apply anymore? What if you can just slowly start tweaking things to eventually that people's like in this matrix that they can't even identify that they're in anymore, but leave them running in real time, Sorry, guys. I got a good night's rest. My mind is just full bore today.
I feel you, man. Yeah, it's going to be pretty epic.
So I guess one of the last questions I had, and then the floor is completely yours. You guys go wild. But what's the topics like that people can expect? Like the hard-hitting, probably the most paramount topics that'll be discussed.
I don't know. I'm thinking like whoever wants to speak about whatever. I mean, it is a free speech platform, but we'll have to, find a good place to put everybody. But Jake, what do you think? I mean, we're still coming up with it on the spot.
Yeah, well, definitely we're going to present to each person who's given a speaking slot the opportunity to hit their most pressing, important, concurrent issue that they want to expose or truth that they feel is most important and valuable. And so, first of all, the biggest step is to, getting a roster of all of these well-established names that have been pursuing after truth and digging and doing their research. And then when you go to them and say, hey, tell us the most important thing that you have, ticking around in there. Then when we have that kind of precedent set up, then they can all kind of start to bounce off of each other. And so that's kind of how we'll present the speaking opportunity for the people that'll be engaged at the conference is, look, you guys obviously have big followings. You have a good audience that love your work. If you were to be able to speak directly to other people's audiences or somebody who's never heard you before, can you encapsulate the most juicy, important truth and then present it to us in roughly a 45-minute to an hour session? And when we have multiple of those sessions throughout the whole conference and panels where we're interacting, man, we're going to be dropping some truth bombs. I'll tell you what. And it's not only that, it's whenever we have all these different kind of audience represent. So people who have followings that are showing up at the conference, maybe they want to just sell a booth, have a booth or do a meet and greet, but they're not exactly, speaking. We're going to try to involve people who aren't doing full like keynote speeches in wider round tables so that they can get up on stage too and be there to engage their audience and also interact with all the other speakers. So it's not just going to be about those who are there to present. it's going to be about all the people that show up just to bump shoulders. And when we get enough of those people together, the conversations that are going to come out of the bigger sessions where we're going to have like speakers like lined across the stage answering the toughest conspiracy questions or theories that the audience can bring out. It's going to be just so powerful and potent. And not only that, but it gives people that have created content online for many years an opportunity to really meet with their audience in person. And so I think that's the other beautiful side of it is, we're going to have a place that people can show up and it's just going to be a hangout sesh unlike any other,
with vendors
awesome.
and everything else too. So that's,
I just think it's exciting the time in which we're living in that this is being held. Because, like the world is going through a massive changing of the guard right now, like politically, economically, I would even say spiritually. It's interesting. And there's, I don't know if I ever told you guys this in our conversations yet, but tonight we're doing a stream about it at 8 p.m. Me and Brother Joel and Akeen's going to be doing a stream together. But Elder Joe, before he died, guys, this was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago now when Joe died. But even back of that, it was probably the winter of like 2009 or 2010 that we had this conversation, and Joe brought it to my attention about 2nd Ezra chapter 16. Have you ever read that?
Now, is that the prophecies of the different birds and the eagle, or because I'm super familiar with 2nd Ezra chapter 2 and chapter 7. Those are my two favorite, but you got to remind me what one that one's about.
Okay, so the one and I know what you're talking about the great eagle, because people reference that to America. But the one I'm talking about is 2nd Ezra chapter 16. Is it talks the beginning verses says, "Woe to you, Babylon, Asia! Woe to you, Egypt and Damascus! Put on haircloth, sackcloth, bewail your sons and daughters, because your destruction's not at hand." Now, if you fast forward on down, the most intriguing thing about this is you have the geographical location marked off in the very beginning. Then it says further down that when you see these things come to pass, I'm just summarizing this real quick, Jake. Don't take my word for it. Just, take the whole chapter in context. But it literally says the beginning of sorrows. And so when a man looks at Matthew 24 and then he looks at 2nd Ezra chapter 16, you've got two witnesses on looking for a beginning of sorrow. And what's so intriguing about that is if you look at just the winter of this past Roman calendar year, is that you had Assad overthrown in Syria. Well, Damascus, burden of Damascus, Isaiah 17 talks about the burden of Damascus, it being a ruinous heap in the last days. Well, if you look at ancient Asia, that was originally where Iran sat, like the Persian Empire and all that. That's modern day Iran. And then you have Iraq, and then you have Egypt. Well, you have elements of Hamas moving into Egypt now, and you have the whole Gaza Strip relocation situation. You have all that going on in Syria. Iraq looks like they're about to jump in on the Iran-U.S. war when that goes down. So you have this entire region about to be laid waste. And if it does go down, that's a very clear fulfillment of 2nd Ezra chapter 16. And the intriguing thing about that is we just talked about, Tartaria and things like that, and where people feel, their thoughts about Satan's little season. I'm like, if we see 2nd Ezra chapter 16 play out and the beginning of the 7 trumpets of Revelation, it's pretty obvious where we're at in timeline too. So these are it's really exciting to be alive right now, but it's also terrifying because I'm just waiting for somebody to hit the nuclear football button and I'm not ready for that, So it's just very interesting. If you haven't checked out 2nd Ezra 16, it's a really good read right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, that'll definitely be another big aspect of the conference. Is there's so many really prophetic scriptures that have been kind of cut off of the modern canon. And so we're going to be bringing in speakers that are experts in those areas that are able to expound on the nuanced lost verses of the Apocrypha and bring those into a modern context. So, obviously, coming from a believer's perspective, the scriptures is the ultimate foundation for truth. And so how can we not include that in some way in the conference? So it's definitely going to be a really cool a time to, find some connections regarding biblical prophecy and scripture that we might have missed along the way. Because sometimes it just takes somebody shining the spotlight, just like you were doing for us, on a verse and being like, hey, this really does seem like it's talking about right now, and of course it's all, biblical prophecy is cyclical in a lot of ways. So while, some people might, interpret one way or the other, there's a repeating pattern in the scriptures that we can use as a lesson and a kind of a way to kind of look at the day and age we're living in, and how to not go the way of those who get judged and the hammer dropped on them, so to speak, but go the way of the righteous, right? How do we navigate these times and focus on the most important things that actually are going to help us escape the judgment of those days, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, there's a subscriber or viewer of the channel that sent me a thing the other day that I'm going to read on it for the Sabbath. Is it's very short apocryphal writing, I guess, but it's the Gospel of or the Apocalypse of Thomas. Have you ever read that?
No, I can't remember reading through that one.
Yeah, well, me neither. This is new info to me, and I know everybody has to take apocryphal writings. I just say, if you want to take it with a grain of salt, that's use it as more of a add fuel to the fire of the truth that's already in the 66 books. I always try to use that as an addition to the knowledge base. Because I know some people get really big issues with the apocryphal writings and such, but what was interesting to me is that I had a dream. Did you see that video of that dream I had that I posted the other day? I never get these kind of dreams, guys. Like, I go to the job site, I come home, eat dinner, play with my kids, talk to my wife, and pass out like dead to the world. Well, I passed out about a week or so ago, and I had this dream. I was in like a laboratory, and they were trying to assemble an AI robot snake thing, but it wasn't just any snake. They were trying to, I'm just summarizing this real quickly, is they were trying to create the Mayan serpent deity. I just try not to say pagan deities' names anymore, but it was Mesoamerican deity, and it had it wrote on the laboratory lab that they're working on. And they even had child blood sacrifice they were putting into this thing, and it starts to like turn purple electric. And at this point, I start cursing these people. Not like profanities, but I'm like, the Most High kill y'all. Yins are just wicked. I start walking out of the place, and the orbs, literal stars of the heavens, start falling. The sky goes black. People are running. It looks like one of these action movies, when people's trying to escape something, and these orbs just were cutting through like 4-inch concrete structural steel and like deleted, unalived this guy, to keep it clean for YouTube, unalived this guy running. And I watched, and I'm just standing there like watching all this going on. And eventually I'm like, oh yeah, I snapped too. And like, I see that I'm still standing there. I'm like, I need to go find cover. And so I wait until this storm passes. The sky turns clear again. You can tell it's like summertime or whatever. And the news is on, and it's showing like these people that was in an arcade. It was going through the roof there. And then they showed another one of the New York skyline. And it was like obvious that this was America. It was obviously judgment was coming up on the place. And anyway, long and short of it, when I woke up 4 hours later, somebody shared me a link that there was a solar eclipse taking place over New York that following day, and that the sun had plasma outbursts more than it ever had before. And there was all this crazy stuff going on. And I was like, what did that mean? Like, that dream mean? But there is some wild things taking place, and people saying they're having all sorts of like end time dreams. And I said all that to say this: is somebody said that the dream I had was like right down the line with what the Apocalypse of Thomas seemed to. I was like, that's wild. So that's
crazy.
Get a flavor of reading that today after lunch.
Awesome. Yeah, we're also going to try to get some comedians there because, we don't want it to all be all doom and gloom. And I know that's like the show we do. I mean, we talk about some dark stuff, but then we try to lighten it up because, it's important to laugh, I feel. And
oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I hugged my little girls today, and I'm just like, what a blessing. As bad as the world can be, I just hugged my daughter a little extra tight this morning because she come running for a hug, and I'm like, this is what life is about right here,
Right. We're also thinking about releasing one of my dad's unpublished books. So
Oh, wow.
let me know what you think about that, and what your audience thinks about that, and we'll do a good one.
Law. I think that's great. I think that would be epic. You know, it made me happy to see Ian's invited Brother Josh, because when I invited your dad to that conference that me and Brother Joel put together, it just didn't work out the week, you know, that we were wanting him to come out. He was already speaking somewhere else. And so I was like, well, dang. I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to hit Josh Keefe up. And I hit Josh up, and he was like, yeah, I'm free up that weekend. And he bumped out there with us, and we all had such a good time. And that just made my day the other day. I seen that Jens had invited Josh. He's got a good soul. He really does.
He's a sweet dude for sure. And he can break stuff down to like my level, to where my brain, because, you know, I'm dyslexic. I'm like, need to see it, and he'll like do it right in front of you, and you're like, whoa, like that makes sense. So
yeah, my wife had enjoyed his content because I think Jens have known me long enough that I always like go for the jugular with stuff like just straight on. And my wife looks at me and she's like, what did you just break down to me? And I'm like, it's right here. And it looks like some scientific formula for math class. But yeah, she enjoyed his content. So he really does. You know what I think it is I think we all have like been gifted talents in life for sure. And as a teacher, I think the way that Josh goes in on things, I think it definitely rolls over from his background in education and teaching. He has that way to get it across to people, and I really enjoy that about his content.
Yeah.
Plus, he does great with slides. I wish I could do all these fancy video, like y'all do all the fancy video edit stuff, and he does too. I wish I could get on the same level with you guys because it's so entertaining and educating at the same time, you know.
VMix. Sorry, Opa, if you're watching. I gave away our secret.
Yeah, we're in the TikTok generation, and you know, you kind of got to throw some visuals in there to hook people.
Yeah. Man, TikTok is a wild drug. I watch people all the time as soon as that TikTok app goes on, like it scroll and scroll and scroll, and I'm like, wow, you know. But yeah, TikTok has been very useful to get the truth out there. I'll give people mad props for that. They definitely done a good job at that.
Yeah, a couple of TikToks of ours went viral. The one, or that we did a couple. There are a couple of them that our TikTok guy made that you were in, and they kind of started getting traction, and then they started censoring, and we were like, "What the heck?" Like, I thought TikTok was free, and so they've kind of loosened it up a little bit. But
oh yeah. I was talking about my little buddies, and one of them snuck in to say, hi. Here you go, hon. It's okay. Here you go. There you go. She's like, where'd Dad go? Found the way to I think she's figured out my door on the side of the office now, how to get the thing. So my little 1-year-olds figure out how to break in the studio. Yeah, I just think though, you know, what Jens have done is a very honorable thing, guys. Like it takes a lot of effort to do something like that. Me and Joel ran ragged, just trying to get like the venue, get the money up and pay it. Cause like we paid for that out of pocket, you know, like to get it going, and we smashed work jobs and went up there and paid it to get it done in time. And then it was during Corona. So there was all these like junk you had to climb, you know, all these red tape you had to go through. And it's a lot of work putting an event together. I mean, people just have no idea how much work goes into that. So I salute you for that, knowing that.
It's been the most stressful part for sure. That has been the most stressful part, trying to find the right place where, you know, people can. I wanted it to be like a cool place too, you know. So it's hard to, you know, find the correct place, and hopefully, I believe that we did. But yeah, it's gonna be fun, dude.
It's gonna be beautiful.
Nice.
And I see people over in the chat, you know, having some suggestions of people we should have over to the conference. And we want to encourage you guys, if you are a content producer or a speaker or have somebody you think should be at TrutherCon, jump over to TrutherCon.com and fill out one of those submission forms for who you think we should reach out to. Now, we already have lists of dozens of names. And right now, we're reaching out to people and getting people involved with the conference. But if you think you know somebody that we might have missed has gone under the radar, we need you to suggest who we should reach out to invite them down to the conference. And yeah, man, it's just going to be amazing. And so I just want to encourage anybody who did have some suggestions to jump over and submit those names so that we could reach out to them as well.
And also click stay notified. So we're going to be doing ticket drop here pretty soon. So
Nice.
be
Yeah,
out
and the link to the website, guys, is in the video description below for everyone watching. And that's why I also wanted to play that video in the front, so they got hit with that before we even got into discussion, because I'm really bad about being so focused and having fellowship with everyone. I completely forget to be like, hey, here's this link and here's what we're actually talking about. So it's all in the front, catch them on the front end with that. Good.
Yeah, I feel that. Our last interview, I was so geeked out that I couldn't even. I mean, Jake can tell you. I was like, he was like my starstruck, you know. Like I was like, oh, and I knew because everything he was talking about, you know, because I
Nice.
studied his research.
Oh yeah. We are talking, for those of you who hadn't seen it. We talked to Tom O'Neill, who wrote a book debunking Helter Skelter, which was the best written or most popular true crime novel ever written, is about the Manson murders. And so Tom O'Neill had this he has the really interesting alternative take that dives into MK Ultra and all those different nuanced kind of things. And I was bringing up the Hegelian dialectic to him, you know, Hegelian dialectic. He didn't even, he was like, I've never heard of this term. And I can't believe him, but there's no way he did not know about the Hegelian dialect. I was like, all right, Tom, do you think that Manson could have been kind of the pony show, so that the court case that was levied against him, convicting him of conspiracy, was actually what they were wanting in the long run? They were trying to set a court precedence for the censorship of free speech when it comes to musical religious leaders that use their music to coerce their followers and possibly incite certain things. And looking at that, man, just I found some court cases that were all linked together in terms of the evolution of court precedents, in terms of being able to convict people that aren't directly involved, but it ties into that whole concept of, if you scream fire in a movie theater and people get trampled, you're culpable. But what if it comes down to the concept of somebody singing a song about, like, Second Esdras chapter 16, right? Calling and, you know, confirming this prophetic judgment that comes on a land. And if they can contort that to say, oh, you're inciting violence, or you're somehow, you know, doom and glooming America, then it gets really hairy. And so we brought up, like, the topic of how Manson and the way that he was viewed in the media directly correlated.
By the way, great singer, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it directly correlated with another religious musical leader, David Koresh, who we covered in our Waco kind of investigations, and how throughout kind of the past, 50, 60 years, different religious leaders were treated primarily based on the precedents that Manson set, because he was this, like, hippie guru that horrified anybody to ever want to hang out with a hippie again, right? And so yeah, super interesting interview, and that's the kind of stuff that we want to get into at the conference, as well as having speakers like Tom O'Neill show up, sell their books. You know, some of these people might not actually speak; they might just have a booth there at the conference, and so it'll be a great chance for people to show up and shake their hand and, buy some of their books or whatever. And it was a pretty sweet interview. Jeremiah has been talking about that guy for so long. And in the interview, Charlie jumped up on the desk, Jeremiah's cat, and he was like, "Oh no, tell the breakdown there, Jeremiah. He didn't believe you of why you named Charlie Charlie."
Well, I named Charlie after Charlie Manson because so I haven't told this story publicly, but when Charlie was a kitten and I adopted him, I was in the car, and it was right when I started getting into, like, studying Charles Manson in this book and Tom O'Neill's research, and started playing some of Charlie Manson's music, and he just fell asleep in my arms. And I was like, okay, I think I'm going to name you Charlie. And so when I told Tom that, he was like, oh, I don't believe you. And I was like, No, I promise. But he kept hearing Charlie, I think, in my headphones, so he jumped up on the table. So funny.
Oh
I just
wow.
hope he's not really Charlie Manson, reincarnated over here.
When you talk about MK Ultra, and I don't know if we did talk about this briefly that one time whenever we covered it a while back, but was it not Kathy O'Brien? Is that not the lady, Transformation of America? Have you ever seen that? You know what I'm talking about?
It sounds familiar, but I can't.
So apparently, and now forgive me if I'm wrong on this, misquote this, and anybody that's listening, if they don't care to chime in on the comments, I want to make sure I don't tell this wrong. But Brother Joel, I think, shared me the info on this a long time ago, and it was like my first interaction with MK Ultra. Matter of fact, just 1 second, I just want to hit the Google button 1 second and make sure I've got you the right person. O'Brien, MK Ultra. Because the story I'm about to tell you, yeah, okay, so I'm on point. All right, so long story short, apparently they had done MK Ultra on her, and they had a way of like speaking certain trigger words or things like that, and then she'd do whatever they wanted her to do. And like apparently she was on a flight with George Bush Jr., and I forget who was the Secretary of Defense at that time. Wasn't it Rumsfeld? Was that the guy who I'm talking? I think
That
was
sounds
right.
all right.
Okay,
So.
I can't remember if it was him. There was one other guy in her book. This is all detailed out, and they were flying out to this lodge place to hunt, but they were hunting people, and they were like, the one guy was asking Bush or whatever. He was like, hey, he's like, how does that really work? And he said, well, I'll show you. And he said something to one of the guys that was on the flight, and apparently they were part of that program too. And he said a trigger word, and dude got up and he was like, jump out the helicopter. And they pulled the door open and just jumped out.
Was that in Texas?
I'm not sure.
Because the Bush's own property right next to the Waco compound, and they're there all the time.
Gotcha. But yeah, I like I said, I don't want to speak out of turn on this. Like I said, I think the book is Transformation of America, and I double checked that it was Kathy O'Brien with MK Ultra on it. Yeah, and apparently it was part of a program too called Project Monarch, which also I think is the same program. Sorry guys, I swear I really got a good night's rest because man, the brain is turning today. I think Project Monarch, and not for those that we're not talking about Godzilla. But the other Project Monarch apparently was the same program that was part of that remote viewing thing I was telling you about that did get, declassified recently, and that made the news too. So anyway, yeah, that MK Ultra program is just crazy stuff. And keep in mind, like I've just scratched the surface like a man would scratch a lotto ticket. Like I couldn't even. This is not my spot to talk from. You want to talk about Tartaria, I can sit here all day. But when it comes to MK Ultra, I'm out in left field. But that book is disturbing, and the stuff that she told is crazy disturbing. And like it just goes to show you like how deep that program really was, and like the prior things to that program too.
Yeah, Jack Ruby, who killed Lee Harvey Oswald, he couldn't say officially that it was truly him, but his name was Jolly West, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, but Jolly West was Jack Ruby's handler. He used to see all these weird things after Jolly West was with him, and also he was in the same building at the same time with Charles Manson. And I always found that interesting, that there's a connection to JFK and the Manson murders, and yeah, it's really interesting. Just the whole MK Ultra. Who knows? Lee Harvey Oswald could have been trying to break away from their CIA ties to him. So, and they knew each other, which is different too. So,
man, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that has filtered out over the years that came directly from the CIA. Like if I listed my baddies, it would be the Vatican #1. Under that, the Illuminati, and I think CIA gets third place just by a hair. Just crazy stuff. But yeah, shout out to Joel if he's watching though. That was the first dip of my toe into MK Ultra and all these hidden projects that the CIA has done and everything. And man, just absolutely wild. But well, guys, anything else you just want to share before we jet out of here?
Well, I'm just happy you're going to be there, and I'm hope to see some of your audience there at TrutherCon, and it's going to be so much fun, dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of peeps in Texas that follow my content.
Awesome.
There's definitely a lot of people in Texas. I see it often when people first jump on live streams and stuff. And they're like, "Hey, from so and so," and there's people that it's exciting whenever you do a live stream and there's people like from Australia watching or something like that. That is such a miracle to be able to communicate. Like we're half a world apart right now, and just being able to talk. I just think that is such a miracle to be able to talk to people, like the telecommunication and internet and stuff like that. It's always blown my mind at the ability to just instantly communicate across the world,
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. We have an amazing opportunity with how well we can communicate. And I think that's why we're so excited about this conference, because, what other event like this in the far distant past, or even in recent past, can you have all these experts and all these variety of research areas come together? And I think that's what's going to be so beautiful about it, because we not only have the advent of the internet and the ability of research that it gives us, but now that the people who have a love for the truth, that get super into their niche topic, have the access, they're coming up with revelations and connections that generations have skipped over and not seen. And so now, man, to get everybody like that into a room and to hash it out, it's going to be sweet.
Awesome. Yeah, I just think about that in Daniel where it says many will run to and fro, knowledge will increase before the end. And I'm like, man, if we ain't there, I don't know what that's going to look like, because there is just the truth is coming out about so many different topics and things at such rapid speed. My little finite mind cannot process all that information quick enough. I have books sitting on my desk in my office. It's just cluttered over. Like, it looks so clean behind me, but the front of my desk, like, you can't even set a plate on here to eat dinner. And it's or hardly write anything down. I was holding my notepad to make notes earlier whenever you were telling me something, because I can't even put it on the desk. But I just can't get to it all because there's just so much going on. I can't keep up with it all anymore. But well, guys, so is there anything that, like, as far as notification wise, that people can get on there? They just need to put their email in.
Yeah, you go to TrutherCon.com, and then there'll be a little button that says stay notified. And then as soon as we do tickets or whatever, our guy will make it active for you guys. So that's the best way to stay in communication and make sure that you're connected and you get all the updates and all that.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, man, it's always a privilege to have you in Zone Fellowship together with you. And guys, for everybody else that's watching, until we see you again here at Seven Trumpets Prepper Channel, as always, hope Most High Yah Baruch you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, show you favor, and give you shalom, my friends, in Yahushua name.